Welcome to Family Basics 101. I'm Dr. Bruce McClure, and as we begin our study for today, we will talk about divorce and spirituality. When we talk about the mind and sometimes how the mind and the events before us, especially spiritual events, line up, it's often difficult for individuals, especially those who profess a faith in God, to line up the reality of a divorce with the reality of spirituality. So many times people will begin to question their spirituality if in fact they find themselves in the midst of a divorce. Clinically, we call that cognitive dissonance. And that's when the mind and the reality before us appears to be disconnected. On one hand, we are dealing with reality, the events. But then on the other hand, we question, is this really a godly thing to do? Does this bring into question my relationship with God? So the cognitive dissonance in the mind of individuals who walk by faith really creates multiple spiritual dilemmas when a family is faced with divorce. The initial response to the developing divorce for many worshipers is truthfully to deny that the marriage is falling apart and then to believe that God will fix the marriage. So in essence, for people who profess a faith in God, the initial response to the inevitable divorce is to deny that this is really taking place, and the denial is driven by their belief that God will fix the marriage. Now, more times than not, denial of the seriousness of the trouble, the seriousness of the sin, the seriousness of the disconnect of one or both of the individuals in regards to the relationship is attributable to an inner spiritual fear that if I or we acknowledge what is happening in our marriage, then it shows that we do not have a strong faith in God. So the individual or both individuals, especially if both are God-reverencing people, they will deny the seriousness of the trouble. They will ignore the sin behavior of an individual within the relationship because they will feel, now if I acknowledge this, then it shows that we don't trust God to fix it. So many times in a marriage that is about to dissolve because of infidelity or whatever the reason, individuals are afraid to acknowledge that this is happening to us because we trust God for everything. And God has always fixed everything that we put before Him. And if we don't believe God can fix this, then where is our faith? Negative emotions such as anger, disappointment, hurt, fear are rarely claimed by Christians. People say, well, I'm not going to claim that. I'm going to claim the positives. Yet these are very familiar emotions that arise when individuals are in the midst of a divorce. So the very emotions that are typical in the presence of a divorce, many Christians refuse to claim it, and that's okay. But the refusal to claim it does not make the reality of those emotions disappear. Emotions are not indicators of being less spiritual, but rather are indicators that one is capable of feeling. You're feeling hurt. You may feel anger. You may feel disappointed. And there may be really inside of you a fear that this marriage and my children and this relationship are in jeopardy of being dissolved. When individuals do not possess this ability, they are more likely to walk away from a marriage as if it never happened, and also treat the person they have borne children with, they have gone through difficulty and joy with, as if they never existed. So emotions, and those real emotions that sometimes don't feel comfortable, are actually indicators that you can feel, and that there is remorse, and that there is a hope. But never allow the negative emotions to push one into the mindset that there is something wrong with your spiritual walk. Christians should be the most optimistic people alive. Christians sometimes, however, substitute optimism for reality due to a lack of a broader meaning of what it means to be able to do all things. Like, we believe you can do all things through Christ. We believe that you are more than a conqueror. We believe that you're supposed to trust in the Lord and lean not onto your own understanding. It's okay to be optimistic, but there's a point in this divorce matter where spiritually one must become realistic as well. Divorce happens because at least one individual is not knowledgeable, or one individual rebels against God's expectations in the marriage. And at some point, one must accept the reality that their spouse has made a choice to reject or to refuse the teachings that might be able to stabilize the marriage. It is never healthy to own responsibility for the behaviors of a spouse who you know is destroying the marriage. We call that being an enabler. And enabling inappropriate behavior in a relationship is never healthy. In the Bible, the book of Malachi, chapter 2, verses 11 through 17, Judah had dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah hath profaned the holiness of the Lord, which he loved, and he hath married the daughter of a strange god. The Lord will cut off the man that does this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offereth an offering unto the Lord of hosts. And this have you done again, covering the altar of the Lord with tears, with weeping, with crying, insomuch that he regardeth not the offering any more, or receiveth it with good will at your hand. Yet you say, wherefore, because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously, yet is she thy companion and wife of thy covenant? And did not he make one? Yet he the residue of the Spirit. And wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of thy youth. For the Lord, the God of Israel, said, he hates putting away. But guess what happens? God says of Israel, you have wearied me, you have frustrated me, you have pretended you're going to do better, and yet they are all lies, and you keep doing the same thing over and over again. And although God hates putting away, he puts Israel away. He sends them into Babylonian exile, and he hated to do it. But God understood, if I'm going to be the spiritual God that I am, then I must do it. I'll see you back in class again tomorrow. Don't be late, and don't skip class.